it's probably one of the things that has held me in good stead for my life now, in just opening my
Yeah.
awareness to, initially I was a young player, but it opened my awareness of how to talk to people. And we did some pretty brutal sessions where we were, I don't know if you did it, where you were almost like speed dating within the team, and you would go through, we went through each player one by one and giving them
Yeah.
motivational feedback and then developmental feedback. And but then within that, with those players, we saw who had what personality, and I knew that I could be very direct with some players because that's how they needed to be. I could just be like, look mate, you're selfish, and then bang, you give them that info. Or if it was someone else who I knew was a bit more green blue and loving and caring, that you had to give that feedback in a different way. Like, look mate, I realize you're pulling people different directions. And that tone of, there's so much to be said in like the tone of voice you say things in, the way you said it, being aware of the words that you have and the impact that the words that you're saying can have on someone. Because it's very easy for a player or a coach to just say something emotionally and then just kind of have to reel it in after that. It's a really interesting point that I learned along the way, as to developing my interpersonal skills.
Yeah, definitely. And it's one of the first things we do at Performance by Design when we do our kickoff days is we try and encourage the companies to do the insights, to do the profiling. And then we have a really good discussion around what it looks like. And we did it with the players at Melbourne as well. And it is transformational for a lot of guys. I remember Jack Viney, who was a real hard ass, and I can't speak highly enough about his transformation, about how the way he then started to give feedback and started to understand other personalities. And it really transformed into a much better leader. So it has a significant impact because you want to, if you want to make a difference, it has to be about the way you give the feedback. And there's this notion of, as a leader, I'm just going to have to be direct and I'm going to have to give it. And if they don't bloody accept it, well, bad luck. No, hang on. How can you help them accept it? How that's part of what you do, and we talk about it a lot as CEOs and coaches. If you're a leader that's predominantly in a red or blue, you still have to step out of that color. You can't stay in that color the whole time. You have to step out of that color and get into yellow and get into green. And that's why it can be quite exhausting as a leader. You have to understand that concept of giving the feedback, because the only reason we give the feedback should be to make people better. Okay, not to say, well, if you don't take on board, we can get rid of it. That's not the reason we give feedback. The reason is to say, well, how do I help him understand that feedback, and then how do I create a solution for that feedback? And I think one point you touched on before, which was really valid, you can damage people unbelievably by giving feedback directly and offending them, if you don't understand their personalities. And that's one thing I learned as a player. I saw relationships just destroyed after games of football when coaches would just get up and just shoot at the hip and just go around the room, and they just couldn't get that. You can't get that time back. It's very difficult when you've slaughtered a staff member in front of everyone, you've slaughtered a player in front of everyone, you've already said it. It's very difficult to get it back. And it's a really important point.